Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to Science Saturday. I have a special guest with me today, Miss Callie. We are going to do a really fun science experiment today. So before we get started with that, I have something I drew up here on the board. I wrote a big science question for you today, and it says sink or float. Well, first we're going to have to talk about what those two words mean. So I drew a little picture up here on the board. I drew a picture. I have a tub and it's filled with water. As you can see, my blue line there. And I have two boxes. I have a red box and I have a green box. So my question for you is, which box is sinking? Which box is sinking? And which box is floating? So I'm going to point to one and I want you to say either sink or float. The red box, sink or float? Very good. The red box sank or is sinking because it's sitting down on the bottom of my water tub. It went under the water. So I'm going to write here on the line sink. Sink. So if my red box is sinking, it's on the bottom of the tub. It sank below the water. Is my green box sinking or floating? Very good. Yes, it is floating. Oh, there's an FL blend. Float. Our green box is floating, and we know that because it stayed above the water. So if we sink, we go down below the water. If we float, we're up above the water. So keep that in the back of your minds because we're doing an experiment today that involves sinking and floating, okay? So in order to get this experiment underway, we're going to do it together. You're going to do it with me and help me make some predictions and observe some of the things I do. But then you're going to do it on your own. So for now, I'm just going to show you what you're going to need for this experiment. And then you're going to watch me and we're going to do this together. Okay? So one of the first things we need for this experiment is some sort of bowl or tub of water. Miss Callie, can you show them what we have? It's like a measuring bowl filled with water. So that's what we're using. It's clear. You can see through it perfectly so we can see if our items sink or if they float. Awesome. Put that down. Thank you, Miss Callie. So, bowl of water. Kindly ask mom or dad to help you with that. It can spill, and we don't want any spills, okay? The next thing you're going to need. This item, if you don't have it, that's okay. But if you do, wonderful. We just had Easter, so I know some of you have some Easter eggs hiding around the house. You probably found them. They might be in your Easter basket by now. Well, why don't you grab those? We're going to need some of those today for our experiment. If you do not have Easter eggs, that's okay. You will need 5 Easter eggs. If not, like I said, totally fine. You don't need them. And then the last thing you are going to need is little objects that you're going to put inside your Easter eggs. So let me show you. I'm going to go through all of my Easter eggs. Miss Callie's going to help me, and we're going to show you what we put inside of these, okay? So in my purple Easter egg, I have a rock that I found outside. So that's in the purple one. What is in our yellow one, Miss Callie?
In our yellow Easter egg, we have a ping pong ball.
Ping pong ball. Awesome. So we put those down. In our blue Easter egg, we have some rubber bands. I have a bunch of rubber bands in there.
In our pink Easter egg, we have some pom-pom balls.
Very good, some colored pom-poms. And in our orange egg, I found a piece of colorful chalk. So you do not need to use the same items that we did. We went searching around our house and we're like, which items or objects can we find that will fit nicely inside our Easter eggs? Plenty of things around the house that you can use. So that is totally up to you. So you'll need 5 eggs and 5 items to go in the eggs. So we have that there. I said the eggs and the items were the last thing, but there is one more thing you're going to need. Well, 2 technically. You're going to need a pencil and you're going to need something to make a recording sheet on. So let me explain that for you. Scientists, when they're doing experiments, they don't just make a mess and do crazy experiments without writing down what they did, writing their observations, what they see. So you're going to have to make your own. I did it at home for me. You guys are going to do it on your own. Ask mom or dad nicely to help you. You're going to make your own recording sheet, okay? So I wrote on my recording sheet, I wrote the title of my experiment, the Easter egg sink or float experiment. And then on my recording sheet, I have in this column my objects I'm using. So if you can see, I'm going to try to get this nice and close. These dots up here show which color egg I'm using. So in my pink egg, I have the pom-pom balls. In my orange egg, I have the colorful chalk. In the yellow egg, I have the ping pong ball. In the blue egg, I have the rubber bands. And in the purple egg, I have the rocks. So that's going to tell me what is in each egg when we do the experiment. And then next to where my objects are, it says prediction. Predict. We know this word. What does predict mean? We do this all the time in reading. We do it in science. We do it every single day in school. Very good. Predict means to make a guess. Before you even do the experiment, you have to make a guess. So I'm going to use my recording sheet, and Miss Callie and I are going to make some predictions about our objects and whether or not they'll float. So my first object is my pink egg. We need to predict if our pink egg with our pom-pom balls is going to sink or if it's going to float. Miss Callie, do you think our pom-pom balls are going to sink or float?
Well, our pom-pom balls are pretty light, so
Meaning they're not heavy. They're very, very light.
So I think they're gonna float.
Okay, so I'm going to show you what I did. So we are predicting. We don't know if they're going to float or not, but we are predicting here. Miss Callie said she thinks they're going to float, so we circled the word float. Float. And it's easy to find these words because if we say the words float, we hear the sound f. In the beginning, we look for the letter F. If we say the word sink, we hear S in the beginning, so we look for the letter S, okay? So that'll help you when you're looking for your words. So let's get these predictions finished. Our chalk, Miss Callie, and our orange egg. Do you think our chalk will sink or float?
I'm going to guess that our chalk will sink.
Sink. Okay, so I'm going to circle sink. And let me show you that really quickly. So right here we have our chalk, and we guess that it's going to sink. Okay, let's do the rest. The ping pong ball, sink or float?
Float.
Float. The rubber band, sink or float?
Float.
And the rock.
The rock, I think, is going to sink.
Okay, sink. So we have now made our predictions. So when you do this, after we're done here, you are going to do the same thing. You're going to predict. Your predictions might not be the same as ours. You might think, Miss Callie and Miss Lutz, you are silly. That rock is going to float. We don't know until we do the experiment. So you may be laughing and saying, oh, I don't think they're right. But that's okay. We're going to find out if they do here when we do our experiment. So let's get this thing rolling. So up here, you'll see it says observation. Observation, we hear the word observe. It means we are going to watch what happens, just like scientists do, and then we will record our answer. So if I'm watching and our egg sinks, I'm going to circle sink. If I'm watching and our egg floats, I'm going to write float, and we're going to see if our predictions are right. Okay? So are you ready? We are going to get started with our pink egg. Boys and girls, we have pom-pom balls in here. Do you think our pom-pom balls will sink or float? You tell me your prediction. All right, let's see. Is it sinking or is it floating? Very good. Okay, so our pink egg is floating. All right, so that's our pom-pom balls. I'm going to take this out so we have room for our other eggs, and I'm just going to put it to the side. The next on my list is our orange egg. Our orange egg has the colorful chalk. Do you think it's going to sink or float? I like that prediction. Miss Callie and I think it's going to sink, so let's see. Miss Callie and I were wrong. It is floating. Alrighty, so let's circle float. And let me show you quickly. Ooh, our eggs are rolling. Both of our first eggs were floating, so I circled float. Okay, so wow, we have a lot of floaters. Our next thing was our ping pong ball, which is in our yellow egg. Do you think the ping pong ball will sink or will it float? That is a wonderful prediction. We think that it's going to float. So let's see. We were right. It is floating. Wow. That is 3 eggs that are floating. Take that one out. We now have our rubber bands in our blue egg. Do you think our rubber bands will sink or are they going to float? That is a wonderful prediction. We think they are going to float. Look at that. We have another group of items that is floating. So we circled float. All right. Our very last item is our rock. Do you think our rock is going to sink or will it float? It's a tricky one. We think that it's going to sink, so let's find out. Well, it looks like our rock is slowly, wait for it. Our rock sank. We finally found something that sank to the bottom. Sometimes, friend, as you noticed, it didn't sink right away. It took a little while, but it happened. It's sinking in the bottom. It is not floating. So we finally found something that sank. So I'm going to circle sink. So now all my observations are done. We found, let's count how many items that we used floated. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we had 4 floating eggs. And how many eggs that sank? Just 1. We had 1 egg that sank. So maybe when you go and do this after us, you'll have better luck finding some things that are going to sink to the bottom. We only found 1. Friends, another thing I almost forgot to mention, when you are finished, I want you to really look at your observations, look at your predictions. Did we predict right? Let's see if we did. Well, we got that one, we guessed float. This one tricked us, the chalk. We thought the chalk was going to sink, but it floated. But that's okay. Sometimes our predictions are not right, and that's totally fine. We guessed the ping pong ball would float. That was right. We guessed the rubber bands would float. That was right. And we guessed the rock would sink. So we were really stumped on that chalk one. But like I said, that's okay. Scientists make predictions sometimes that aren't right, but it helps lead them to finding the right answers, finding these awesome, awesome things. Okay, so that was our experiment for the day. It is over. It is now your time to go and grab your 5 different items around the house and 5 Easter eggs if you have them, and get your experiment underway. I hope you had a lot of fun. We had so much fun doing this experiment. I learned some new things today. Miss Callie, did you learn some new things?
I did learn some new things today.
Yeah, you'll learn some new things every single day. Science Saturday is always so much fun. So you have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye.